This is Algebra 2 with Triggs, Day 1 homework. We're going to look to simplify this. It's not solving because there's no equal sign. We're just going to try to combine like terms. So we distribute the 7 through. Distribute the 4 through. Collect your like terms. You don't do the opposite. You don't add 21. You just actually look at the negative and the positive and say that that has a negative. Distribute. Now here when you distribute, you have to watch that that's a negative 2. So you're going to have a negative 2x squared and you're going to have a negative 12x. We often like to write our squareds in front. Positive 6 and negative 12 gives you a negative 6 and a negative 12. Distribute the negative 9. We have negative 9x squared. Distribute the negative through to get a positive 9y, negative 12y, and a positive 12x squared. Now we group our like terms together. This would give us a negative. This would give us 1x squared plus 12 more gives you 13x squared. Then here you would get negative 3y. We distribute our values through. 10 minus 5x plus 10y plus 27 negative 9y. Collecting your like terms. We have negative 5x. Sometimes you might cross that off so you know you've used it. We have 1y. 10 and negative 9 give us a positive 1. And then 10 and 27 gives us 37. Here we're going to evaluate. We know what k is supposed to equal, so we're going to plug the k value in. That becomes 7 squared minus 30. 49 minus 30 looks like 19. Here we see that m is 6. So we have 8 times 6 plus 2 times 6 minus 9, then cube that. So we're going to get 48. We're going to get 12 minus 9, and then cube that. We're going to get 3 and then cube that. That's 48 plus 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So the 4 and the 2 make a 6, so it's 60. And this makes 15, so that's 75. Here the x is negative 5 and the y is positive 1. So we're going to put the negative 5 in parentheses because it's being squared. The y is times 3, so it has to be in parentheses. So here you don't say 15 squared. You have to square the 5 first. You got to remember your order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally is the order. So you have to do what's inside the parentheses, then you do the exponents, Then you do multiplication and division. Another set of exponents to do. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. And it comes out to be 6. R is negative 3. We don't say 6 squared. You got to square the 2, so you can call that 12. Plug your numbers in. 3 times 3 is 9. If you want to group these two together, you can. 6 minus 4. That gives you 12 over 2, which is a total of 6. The x value is 2. The y value is negative 2. So you got to be careful in this case. Notice that there's not parentheses. The 3 is not affecting the negative. So it's going to stay outside. The y value is the only thing being affected by the cube. So the negative 2 is being affected by the cube. So this becomes 4 minus 2 cubed. And the bottom becomes negative times negative 8, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. This becomes 2 cubed, which is 8. This becomes positive 8 minus 3, which is 5. Here we're going to write an algebraic expression that includes 4 coefficients, 4 numbers in the front, 2 that have like terms, which are variables, 2 with unlike terms, and 1 that is a constant. Write a algebraic expression that includes 4 coefficients. So you could say 3, negative 2, 9, 4 coefficients, and 7. Any numbers that you want to use. 2 of them need to be like terms. So this is going to be x, and maybe come over here and call this one x. So now they're like terms. 2 are going to be unlike terms. So we could call this y. You could say that those two are different. Anyway, we'll call this one w. Those would be 2 more terms with unlike. And then you're going to have 1 with a constant. So a positive 7, a positive 9, and then simplify your answer. The best we could do is bring the w, or the 3x and the 9x together. Negative 2y, positive 7w, plus our constant. Yours might look a little bit different than that. The second page of day 1's homework, we have $20. We're going to buy strawberries that are $3 a pint. We're going to write an expression. There's no equal sign. We're going to write an expression for the amount of money you have left after purchasing n pints. So n is going to stand for the number of pints. So we're going to start out with $20, and we're going to subtract $3 for every pint that we buy. That'll tell us how much money we have left over. If we buy 3 pints at $3 a piece, that means we're paying $9 for strawberries. We're going to have $11 left over. Here we need to distribute. There's a couple ways that we could handle this, but 3 is going to work into each of these, so we can distribute relatively easily here. We get 12 because you only multiply the top numbers. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Now we collect our like terms. Okay, here we're solving. We're trying to figure out what the value of Q is, because these have equal signs. Solve and show your work. So we distribute. Try to make a difference between 9s and Q's. And we collect our like terms, so 6Q, and add our 6Q. We're going to add 9 to the other side. So these would cross off and those would cross off. That would leave us with 10Q. And on this side we're going to be left with 25. 5 goes into the top thing 5 times. 5 goes into the bottom 2 times. So Q is 5 halves, or 2.5. In this case, we can handle this a couple different ways. What I would suggest is to look for what number does the 9, the 2, the 3, and the 6 all go into. Let's see. 9 goes into 18, and so do all the other numbers. Excellent. So we're going to multiply that by 18, this by 18, this number by 18, and the last number by 18. And we can simplify our fractions. 3 goes into 18 6 times. 6 goes into 18 3 times. So since 9 went into 18 2 times, it's 2 times 8, which is 16z. 9 times 1 gives you a negative 9. 6 times 2 gives you negative 12. And 3 times 1 gives you 3. Add the 12 back across. Bring the 9 to the other side. Divided by 28. Reduce this. Let's see. 4 goes into both of those. 4 goes into here 3 times. 4 goes into that 7 times. In this case, because we have parentheses, we need to consider how to distribute this through. So we have x plus 3 halves plus 3/4 x minus, when you multiply a fraction, you multiply the top numbers together and you multiply the bottom numbers together. Now, what number does a 1, a 2, a 4, and an 8 all go into? They all go into 8. So instead of dealing a lot with fractions right now, let's just multiply out so we don't have any fractions. That's what I'm trying to do. So we reduced the 2 and the 8 to make a 4, so it's 4 times 3, which is 12. Reduce the 4 and the 8 to make a 2. 2 times 3 is 6x. Let's see, we did that. My confusion in here is that this should be an equal sign. Okay, so we're still going to have the 12. We're going to have the equal sign here. That made us 6x, and on this side they cross off and we're left with 3. Collect our like terms together. Subtract the 6 to get 2x. Subtract the 12 to get negative 15. So x is going to be negative 15 halves. Next, we're going to come over here to solve, and we're going to distribute. We have our 3x plus 7, 2x plus 10, and in this case, we just need to distribute a negative or a negative 1 through here. So we get negative 3 and a positive x. Two negatives make a positive when you're multiplying. So collect your like terms. Here you have 2 x's and 1 x to give you 3x and a positive 7. These are the same exact things. You'll notice that when you do the work, we get 0 equals 0, which is a true statement. It's always true. That means no matter what you put in to these numbers, as long as it's the same value all the way across, it will always balance out. In other words, all solutions will work for this. All real numbers are the solutions. Here we have an inequality. That's the little Pac-Man sign. We're going to treat it the same way as we do any equation. So we have x is less than negative 8. What's going to make these two expressions, this one smaller? Whenever x is less than negative 8, that's always going to be true. So we distributed. I brought my x's over here to this side, so now I'm going to bring my 6 over here to this side. I'm going to divide by a positive answer, so I'm still going to have negative 7 is greater than x, and we often like to rewrite that as x is smaller, reading it to the left, x is smaller than or equal to negative 7. Typically your answer should have your variable on the left hand side. These are the same thing, just with the x going first. I didn't flip a sign, the sign's exactly the same. The big part's eating the negative 7, the big part is eating the negative 7. Here we're going to try to graph our solutions. We have two parts. We have this part we're going to work with, and then we have this one that we're going to work with. I like to break them up separately. So add the 1. So x is greater than 1. X is greater than 1. And with the next one, add the 1 across. X is less than 7/3. 3 goes into 7 2 times with 1/3 left over. So we can put maybe a 1 here, a 0. Oh, my bad. Put a 0 here, a 1, a 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the 1 we're going to represent with an open hole. The 2 and a bit more will be in here with an open hole. We need to be less than that and greater than that. So that would be the graph. The way it's written originally tells you that this is a compound inequality. It's a segment. It's an AND statement because this value has to be greater than 2 and it has to be less than 6. It's going to be right in between there. So here we're going to distribute the 4 across. We can subtract the 4x, and you can see what's going to happen here. You get -5 is less than or equal to 8. You could add that across to get 0 is less than 13. Because there's no x values left over, there's no real solution for this. This is a true statement, but without any x's, it's an automatically no real solution. There's no answer that's going to make that true. I'm going to rephrase this answer. Instead of calling it no real solution, this is a true statement. So actually, every answer is working in it correctly in both directions. You can plug in a 2 to get 8 minus 5, which is 3. Plug in a 2, which is 4 times 4 is 16. The 2 is less than the 16. Or the 3 is less than the 16. You plug in a 10. You get 40 minus 3 is 35. Plug in a 10. You get 12 times 8 is 48. That's another 35 is less than or equal to 48. All the numbers you plug in should work. Even if you plug in a negative number, it's going to work. Plug in a -5. You're going to get -20. -5 more is -25. Plug in a -5 here to give you -3. 4 times that is -12. -12 is greater than or equal to -25. Another true statement. You've got to try each of those scenarios to be sure that your answer makes sense. So it's any number is going to work. It's all real solutions. On the third and final page, we're looking at a salesman that makes $14,000 a year. The salesperson receives 7% commission on his sales. So that's 0.07 for X, and X is the amount of sales. And that is going to equal the amount of money that he makes, the amount of money that he reports to the IRS. if his sales, X, which is his sales, if they are greater than $500,000, then he's going to get this bonus. So when we solve this, plug that into the calculator, and divide by 0.07, we're going to get a total sales of 596,728 and some change. So in other words, he made sales that were greater than $500,000. This is $596,000. So what he reported to the IRS was actually more than what his actual payment was, because he had the bonus. So we're going to do the 55,771 minus 5,000, which gives us that. So this is actually going to represent what his sales were. So that did not. This tested to see if we needed to worry about the 5,000. So in my calculator, I'm going to take 50,771 minus 14,000 and divide that by 0.07. And his total sales were actually $525,300. That's what his sales were. So what did we just do? What's this number? This number, we had to test to see if his sales were greater than 500,000. If they were, we had to take 5,000 off the top of what he made, because he made $5,000. He would report that to the IRS. That means actually what he got from the company that inspired his payment was selling $525. That was interesting. This next question, you're buying pants and shirts. Each shirt costs $3 and you're going to buy 8 of them. Each pair of pants costs $10. You don't know how many you're buying yet. That's what we're trying to figure out. We're doing a total of $94. So there's a little easier question here. We're doing $3 a piece for 8 shirts. We're doing $10 a piece for an unknown number of pants. That's what X stands for, number of pants. And your total is 94. How many pants did you buy? So you have 24 minus the 24 divide by 10. We got 7 pairs of pants. This next question, you want to install 3 ceiling lights in a row to improve the visibility in your garage. Each light is 3 feet long and your garage is 20 feet long. The distance between the lights should be the same. So there's a light that's 3 feet long. There's a light in your garage that's 3 feet long. There's another light in your garage that's 3 feet long. The distance between the lights should be the same. So we're going to call this X. We're going to call this X. Also, the distance between the group of lights and the walls should be half the distance between the lights. So we have half an x is on this side before you get to the wall, and half an x is on this side of the light before you get to the wall. We want all of that to add up to 27. So we have half an x plus 3 plus x plus 3 plus x plus 3 plus half an x, and that has to equal 27. 1x, 2x, a total of 3 x's. We've got 2 halves to make 1 and 2 more to make 3. 3, 6, 9 adds up to be 27. Minus the 9 gives us 18. So the distance in between should be 6 feet. So 3, half of the 6 is 3. So 3 and 3 is 9, 15, 18, 24, 27. Turn back. Did I do that wrong? This would be a distance of 3, 6, 6 more. Half times 6 is 3. So 3 and 3 is 6. And 6 more is 12. And 3 more is 15. 21. 24, 27. I'm going to stick with it. 6 feet is the distance of x. What is the distance between the lights? 6 feet. On this next question, we know the volume of the box. Volume equals length times width times height. If the volume is 210, we're looking for the length. The width is going to be 6 and the height is going to be 7. We have 42L, so we're going to divide by 42. So L is going to equal 5. That would be 5 inches. This last question, we have a linear equation. So we're going to look for y equals mx plus b. We need to know the slope. We need to know the y-intercept to have our answer. To figure out a slope, we need to know what the change in y is and the change in x. We see the x is going up by 1. We see that the y values are going down by 8. So change in y over the change in x. So that is your slope. Now we're going to take our y equals mx plus b. We can plug in any point we like. I kind of like the 3 and the 7. 7 equals negative 8 times 3 gives us b. So we're going to add 24 to both sides. And we're going to get 31. So our equation is going to be y equals negative 8x plus 31. Let's see if that worked. When we plug in a 2, we get negative 16. When we subtract that from 31, we should get 15. When we plug in a 3, we get negative 24. That should be 7. When we plug in a 4, we get negative 32. Or we get 32. Negative 32 plus 31 gives us negative 1. So it works. Test your answer to be sure it makes sense.